figure on the grainy security monitor raised a heavy, rusted pipe poised to strike the back of Elias's skull. The digital timestamp in the corner of the screen read 3:33 a.m., confirming that this was a live feed of the very room Elias was currently sitting in. The terrifying impossibility of the situation was that Elias was the only person in the locked study, and when he spun his swivel chair around in a panic, the space behind him was perfectly, silently empty. 3 hours earlier, the night had begun with mundane frustration. Elias had spent the evening hardwiring a new high-end surveillance system for his isolated suburban home. It was a sprawling, modern property filled with too much glass and too many shadows. His wife, Sarah, had gone to bed at 11 p.m., leaving Elias alone with the hum of the server tower and the blue light of the quad-split monitor. He was a man of logic, a software engineer who believed in circuits and connectivity. The house was locked. The alarm panel on the wall glowed a reassuring solid green. The first anomaly occurred at 1:15 a.m. Elias was focused on camera 3, which covered the living room. On the screen, the heavy velvet drapes swayed violently, as if caught in a gale-force wind. Elias frowned, checking the weather app on his phone. It was a still, stagnant night with zero wind. He stood up, his joints popping in the quiet, and walked down the hall to the living room. The air in the living room was dead still. The curtains hung motionless, heavy and undisturbed. He touched the fabric. It was warm and dry. He chalked it up to a digital artifact, a glitch in the compression algorithm. But when he returned to the study, the smell of wet earth and decaying leaves lingered faintly near his desk. At 2:42 a.m., the tension tightened. Elias was sipping cold coffee when motion detection triggered camera 2 in the kitchen. The black and white night vision flickered on. On the screen, every cabinet door in the kitchen stood wide open. Elias felt a prickle of sweat on his hairline. He knew he had closed them. He grabbed a heavy flashlight and walked to the kitchen. His footsteps sounded too loud on the hardwood floor. When he arrived, the kitchen was immaculate. Every cabinet was firmly shut. He tugged on a handle. The magnetic latch held tight. He returned to the study, his heart rate climbing. He rewound the footage. On the playback, the cabinets were open. In reality, they were closed. The technology was insisting on a reality that did not exist. Then came 3:33 a.m. Elias was staring at camera 1, the study. This camera was mounted in the corner of the ceiling, pointing down at his own back as he sat at the desk. He watched the back of his own head on the monitor. He saw himself lean forward to check the mouse connection, and then he saw the door on the screen creak open. In the physical room, the door remained shut. On the screen, a tall, gaunt figure squeezed through the opening. It was naked, its skin gray and mottled like old bruised fruit. It moved with a disjointed, fluid grace, making no sound. Elias watched, paralyzed, as the digital ghost walked across the room on the screen, stepping over the cables Elias had laid out earlier. In the physical room, there was only silence and the low whir of the computer fan. The figure on the screen stopped directly behind Elias's chair. It looked up at the camera lens, its eyes hollow black pits, before raising the rusted pipe. Elias spun around. Nothing, just the bookshelf and the closed door. He turned back to the screen. The figure was still there, but now it wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking down at the back of Elias's head on the screen. The figure lowered the pipe, not to strike, but to gently place the cold, corroded metal against Elias's neck. Elias felt a sudden freezing burn against his skin. Elias scrambled backwards, his chair crashing against the floor. He backed into the corner of the room, his eyes darting between the empty room and the horrific image on the screen. The figure on the monitor turned slowly. It walked towards the camera lens, towards the screen, until its face filled the frame. It didn't look like a glitch anymore. It looked like a video file playing from a different timeline. The figure raised a single gray finger to its lips in a hush motion. Suddenly, the monitor went black. The green light on the alarm panel turned red. The room plunged into darkness, save for the blinking red light of the camera in the corner of the ceiling. Elias held his breath, pressing his back against the wall. Then, from the darkness right beside his ear, a wet, rattling breath broke the silence. It wasn't on a screen anymore. Elias didn't scream. He simply closed his eyes as the smell of wet earth filled his lungs. The police report filed the next morning noted that the house was secure from the inside. Elias and Sarah were gone. The only evidence recovered was the hard drive. It contained 6 hours of static, except for the final frame of the video file. It was a still image of the empty study. The chair was upright, the door was closed, but on the dusty glass of the computer monitor, visible only in the infrared reflection, was a single, perfect handprint. The print was gray and impossible to wipe away.